On the 23rd of June 2018, a group of 12 boys and their football coach went on an exploration trip in Thailand's Chiang Rai province, but became stuck deep inside a cave beneath a mountain. What unfolded over the next 2 weeks is an extraordinary tale of friendship, resilience, and the extraordinary measures people are willing to take to rescue someone else's child. On the 23rd of June, a boy named Pirapat reached the age of 17, which is an important milestone for most young people. His family had organized a celebration for him at their home, complete with a bright yellow SpongeBob SquarePants birthday cake and a few nicely wrapped presents. Instead of heading straight home after football practice, Pirapat joined his fellow members of the local youth football team that nicknamed itself the Wild Boars. Together with their assistant coach Ekapol, the boys decided to explore Tam Luang Cave. The boys loved exploring the cave, which was situated in the forested hills that had recently been covered in rain. They often visited it to investigate its crevices and hidden spaces. After arriving at the Tam Luang Cave entrance, the boys and their coach left their bicycles and bags and entered the cave with only their torches. The team had explored the cave before, and sometimes ventured deep into it for initiation rites. They planned to be inside for only an hour, and were in high spirits. Little did they know that they would remain trapped inside the cave for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Pirapat's family became concerned about his absence, and his birthday cake remained untouched. The Tam Luang Cave is a well-liked spot for day trippers as well as adventurous kids. However, the cave has its own hazards, as individuals have gone missing in it before. When the monsoon season begins in July, the cave becomes highly perilous. The cave can flood up to 5 meters and is considered safe to enter only from November to April. Even skilled divers find it hazardous once the cave floods, and almost everyone in my Sai knows this. When the parents of the Wild Boars team realized that their children were missing, they immediately went to Tam Luang Cave to look for them. The boys had discussed their plan to visit the cave on a messaging app with their friends. The parents found their bikes, bags, and football shoes outside the cave and became worried. The Wild Boars ran into trouble while inside the cave. The mountain had been receiving rainfall for several days, and the resulting water had to find its way somewhere. In this case, the water flowed into the Tam Luang Cave system, causing it to fill up rapidly. Based on the boys' initial account, they were surprised by a sudden flood. They tried to escape, but had to move further into the cave because the way out was blocked. After scrambling deeper into the cave, the Wild Boars ended up stranded on a small rocky shelf that was about 4 kilometers away from the entrance. This was located past a usually dry spot called Pattaya Beach, which was now submerged due to the flooding. Trapped within the mountain and enveloped by darkness, the boys and their coach completely lost track of time. Although the situation was scary and unsettling, the boys and their coach were resilient and focused on staying alive. They used rocks to dig deeper into the shelf, creating a small cavern to stay warm and huddle together. Coach Ake, who was a monk in the past, instructed the boys on meditation techniques, which would assist them in remaining calm and using minimal air. He also urged them to remain motionless to conserve their energy. However, there were also some favorable circumstances that worked to their advantage. Despite not having any food, the Wild Boars were fortunate to have a source of drinkable water from the moisture that dripped from the cave walls. Even though it was dark, they had torches to provide some light. There was also enough air to breathe for a while, as the porous limestone and cracks in the rocks allowed air to flow through. They were in a situation that allowed them to survive, albeit temporarily. And the most crucial factor was that they had each other. However, the most difficult part was still ahead of them, waiting for rescue. A comprehensive rescue mission was rapidly taking place outside the cave. The Thai Navy SEALs, National Police, and other rescue teams were summoned by the authorities, and local volunteers also lent their support. Footprints were discovered in one of the cave's chambers during initial investigations, but no other indications the boys were still alive. The Navy divers faced difficulties in exploring the cave because most of them had little experience in cave diving. Moreover, the relentless rain was causing the water level to rise, flooding the chambers and preventing rescuers from accessing some areas of the cave. The engineers made an attempt to pump out the water from the cave, but their efforts were not successful. At the beginning, the volunteers and officials were uncertain about the next course of action. They gathered various tools such as water pumps, pipes, knives, and shovels, but many of them were deemed inappropriate. In an effort to find the trapped boys, the rescuers tried various methods such as drilling into the mountainside and using drones with thermal sensors. They also sought the help of local villagers for their knowledge of the area. Luckily, a boy who wasn't on the cave expedition was found by the Thai Navy SEALs, and he remembered a place in the complex they had previously visited, known as Pattaya Beach. Could the missing 13 be there? While the rescue operations were ongoing, a few individuals, including the families of the missing boys, kept watch at the entrance of the cave. Over time, the group grew to include teachers from the schools that the boys attended. Classmates of the wild boars also joined in and offered prayers, sang encouraging songs, folded paper cranes, and put up hopeful messages on school notice boards. The villagers came together and showed support by donating money and food to the families of the boys and their coach. This act of kindness sparked a sense of unity, and the news of the situation started to spread throughout the nation. People from all over Thailand flew in to volunteer, and the Thai social media platforms were flooded with messages of love and support. On June 28th, the initial group of international rescuers arrived. They included the U.S. Air Force, cave divers from various countries such as the UK, Belgium, Australia, Scandinavia, and others. Some of them volunteered, while others were requested by Thai authorities. In the following days, the Thai divers and international rescuers faced an ongoing struggle against the natural forces. They had to navigate through strong currents and rising floodwaters, often having to retreat. However, on the 1st of July, about a week after the boys disappeared, progress was made as they reached a large cavern known as Chamber 3, which would become an essential hub for the divers. On the next day, 2 British divers uncovered something incredible. John Valanthan and Rick Stanton, who had been exploring the dark and narrow passages of Tom Luang Cave in search of the missing boys, finally reached Pattaya Beach on Monday. Unfortunately, there was no sign of the boys there. They continued to move forward, and a few hundred meters further, they stumbled upon an air pocket. It was there that John's torch shone upon an incredible sight. The boys emerged from the darkness, making their way towards him along the ledge. John's companion Rick was astonished by what he saw. The wild boars had been found.
Hello, thank you.
How many of you? They're all alive. 13?
Yeah, 13.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Backpack is we go inside.
No, not today. Not today. There's 2 of us. You have to die. We are coming. It's okay. It's okay. Many people are coming. Many people. We are the first. Many people come.
What day?
Tomorrow. No. What day is it? No,
The 2 divers stayed with the boys for a while, trying to lift their spirits, before leaving some lights and reassuring them that they would come back later with food. The divers' cameras recorded the remarkable encounter, which was quickly shared on the internet, causing a global outpouring of joy. After being worried sick for a large part of the previous week, the parents of the wild boars were overjoyed to see that their children had miraculously made it through. Although they appeared thin, the boys were otherwise in good shape. The boys and their coach were soon joined by a military medic and Navy SEAL divers who provided them with continuous support during their time trapped in the cave. They were hungry and craved a proper meal, but the doctor in charge recommended a special diet consisting of medicated liquid food and mineral water with added vitamins, which the boys had to follow. The rescuers started to tackle the problem of rescuing 13 people from the cave, including some who couldn't swim. The cave was a complex and flooded 4 kilometers long stretch that even experienced divers would find challenging. The remarkable discovery of the children inside a deep cave in a mountain brought global attention to the small town of Mai Sai. Reporters from various countries flocked to the area, while more international volunteers joined the rescue mission. A small town sprang up at the rural country park located at the entrance of the cave. Free food and drink stations were established, with certain food stands being run by Thai Royal Kitchen staff, offering a range of hot meals such as noodles, chicken rice, and even ice lollies. Every task, no matter how small, was taken care of. The park's restrooms were in a dirty and crowded state, so volunteers began tidying them up. Workers required transportation up and down the mountain, so drivers provided free rides. Since the rescuers were covered in mud, a nearby laundry cleaned their clothing every evening. The community was in high spirits, but then a fatal accident occurred, causing devastation. Salman Gunan, a former Navy SEAL diver, was among numerous volunteers who came forward to assist with the rescue efforts. On July 6th, while delivering air tanks to the boys, he lost consciousness after running out of air for himself. His dive buddy managed to retrieve him and attempted to resuscitate him, but Salman could not be revived. His funeral was held later that day, with Buddhist monks reciting prayers and burning incense in his honor. This tragedy highlighted the perilous nature of the rescue operation and the potential dangers faced by the boys. Salman, a highly trained and physically fit diver who had even competed in triathlons for Thailand, lost his life despite his experience and strength. This underscored the concern for inexperienced boys who had never dived before. There was also a concern about the oxygen levels in the chamber. Even though attempts were made to refill the air, the levels of oxygen in the chamber had dropped to 15%, which is lower than the typical 21%. The clock was ticking. Rescuers had 3 potential courses of action. The first one involved teaching the boys to dive through the flooded parts of the cave, a risky process that was regarded as a final option. The second option was to pump water out of the cave and wait for the water levels to drop naturally, but this could take as long as 4 months. The third alternative was to locate or drill new passages into the cave. The divers began rehearsing with nearby boys in a pool, developing methods for safely transporting a child underwater. The rescue team encountered such challenging conditions that even basic tasks, such as installing air and phone lines in the cave, appeared impossible due to the complex layout of the cave. Once the rescuers established them, the boys resorted to traditional letter writing to communicate with their parents. The letters, filled with hearts and smiley faces on notepaper, were deeply emotional. The boys repeatedly expressed their love for their parents and reassured them not to be concerned. On Sunday, the 7th of July, 2 weeks since the boys went missing, the Thai authorities suddenly announced that they were going to pull out the boys. The journalists and volunteers were asked to leave the rescue site, and a determined and resolute atmosphere took over the camp. What prompted this sudden decision? Well, the locals had informed the Thai Navy SEALs that the cave system would be completely flooded by around the 10th of July every year. With only 3 days left, it was time to launch what would later be described as a superhuman rescue effort. Each of the boys was equipped with a full-face air mask for breathing purposes and connected to a diver. They also had a cylinder attached to their front and a handle fastened to their back. They were held in a face-down position to make sure that water wouldn't get into their faces. In the narrow passages, rescuers had to remove their air tanks to fit through and pull the boys with them. This would have been a daunting experience for even the most skilled divers, not to mention children who were not confident swimmers. The Thai government claims that the boys and their coach were administered anti-anxiety medication to help them stay calm, but some sources have reported that they were actually heavily sedated and barely conscious to prevent them from panicking. After arriving at Chamber 3, the rescue team moved on to the second phase, which took several hours. During this phase, each boy was placed in a stretcher and carried by a team of at least 5 men. At one stage, the stretcher had to be placed on a raft and pulled across a pool of water that was chest-high. To transport the boys up a steep slope, rescuers used a pulley system. In some rocky areas, they formed a human chain and passed the boys from person to person, while in other areas they slid them on top of water pipes. The wild boars were brought out of Tam Luang one by one and given oxygen before being quickly transported by ambulances to a hospital in Chiang Rai City. The rescue operation was conducted in 3 separate groups over a period of 3 days, allowing rescuers to replenish air tanks in between. After a grueling 2 weeks, the Thai cave boys and their coach were successfully rescued, marking a remarkable achievement in human perseverance and resilience. In Chiang Rai, people lined the streets leading to the hospital, cheering on the ambulances with joyous enthusiasm. Car horns blared continuously in celebration. The return of the wild boars was celebrated by millions of people around the world who had been closely following the story with anxiety. The boys and their coach underwent a series of medical examinations at the hospital. According to hospital officials, some of them had minor infections in their lungs and eyes and needed antibiotics. However, they seemed to be recovering well. The parents were eventually allowed to briefly see their children, but they were required to wear hospital gowns and masks and maintain a distance of 2 meters. The expected tragic end of the lost wild boars turned into a story of hope and survival, leading to the reunion of parents and sons. The story is about the collaboration of ordinary people from various parts of the world, with a common mission: to rescue the 12 young boys and their coach in a remote area in northern Thailand.